Let's actually start over. So I'll ask the question again. Um, Maybe second time around, it's a little bit more clear. Greatest fear of being as I like to say it, a refined dad. So it's basically there's a lot of things that come with age, but it seems it's basically health related, correct? I agree with that. It's so within the health realm, specifically physical related in regards to playing with my kids. What I hear is I'll be able to play with my kids like I used to when I'm in my 20s, and I won't be around as long to spend time with my kids and potentially my grandkids. Is that fair to say? Okay. So you're about to have a child. Congrats on that. So you'll be around 45. Happy belated birthday, by the way. Um, Maybe 45, 46. Or no, not 46, definitely 45, 44. What is the ideal age that you would like to be? What age was that? 36 to 38? Okay. Find about a 6, 7 year difference in terms of your ideal age of when you would want to have kids versus when you're having another kid right now. Just physically limited. Okay. About a 15-year difference. Okay. Which then translates into maybe missing out on like 15 years of seeing like your grandkids. Okay. And you don't think you can be as physically as fit, like as a 55-year-old as you are like a 25-year-old? Why not? No, I mean, I feel like LeBron at 55 will still be healthier and in better shape than like 90% of 25-year-olds. I mean, yeah, I'm not saying now, I don't understand that. But I feel like at 55, if you stay in good shape, I don't think you're physically limited in any way any more than like when you're 25. And it's not like you're going to be running marathons or playing like 82 game like basketball game schedules with your like 10-year-old kid. At most, it's like 1 or 2 hours of play. I mean, at 55, at 65, why couldn't you do that? Yeah, which is even better. Like, let me provide a different, let me provide a different perspective. What 25-year-old would want to have a tea party? I mean, they have like other like desires and ambitions that they want to reach. But when you're 65, you're probably already settled in life. You've already experienced a lot of things. The things you haven't experienced is having a tea party with your kids. I don't think the desire is going to be hell of a lot different at 65 than like the 40-year-old. Yeah, yeah, way less freedom at 25 than you did at 65. I mean, ideally, yes, if you've lived your life right, then at 65, like, you should have way more time than your 25-year old self. See, that's two separate arguments. Like, there's one where there's whether you have the desire to have a tea party, right? If a 65-year-old just doesn't have that, that's just not going to happen. But there are other things that so that's like within your control, but there are external circumstances that also affect that too, such as like what other things do you have in life? What other stresses do you have in life? Responsibilities. I'm thinking as a 25-year-old, you have so many other competing responsibilities and interests during that time versus a 65-year-old that assuming that the desire for both is there, yeah, yeah, because I feel like most people in life not consciously, but they have like a checklist of like experiences that they want to experience in life. And I think if you have kids at 25, there's still a lot of experiences that are left unchecked. And so I feel like at that point, like subconsciously, your kid is kind of competing with those other other experiences that you haven't experienced at 25. Whereas at 65, more of those experiences are checked off. And so I feel like the kid will have more time and attention from the 65-year-old dad versus the 25-year-old dad. No, and then the other thing is my same question is like, so you mentioned the disadvantages of being an older dad, mainly like physical health. Are there any other disadvantages you can think of? Are you concerned at all about like other people's perception of how it looks? Do you? Because I didn't even think about that, but then yeah, my wife like saw like an older couple with like young kids, and then she was just like, that just looks off. I'm definitely not worried about it. I mean, I have Asian skin going on too, so that's a plus. Um, yeah, it's something that yeah, my wife mentioned a few times, and so but you did mention that it's a problem that kids are going to have to deal with. Do you actually think it is a problem? I think it would only come up if other kids made fun of them for it, right? Do you think other kids would look at that and be like, "Oh man, why are your parents so old?" and they would make fun of the kid? What if the parents like rolled up and dropped off the kid in a Bentley or Lamborghini? Does that make a difference? And it's kind of a serious question. There are certain kids to do are. I mean, let's say like your parents are like well respected in society. They're well off. I feel like they would trump like being old, huh? You don't think it's hard. Not notoriety. I'm not even talking about fame, but just like you can kind of tell, like yeah, not fame, but you can tell who is like respected in society and who isn't. So I'm definitely not self-conscious about it. I actually think it's a huge advantage to having kids at a later age, maybe not from the female perspective, from the male perspective. And I actually think society would be better off if guys actually had children at later ages. Um, I actually think society would be better off. You just have healthier children too. Um, excluding one of the, yes, there is a high probability that the kid will grow up to be like healthy and have some like, health defects. But excluding that, I believe from raising like healthy kids, like mentally and just from a character standpoint, I think society would be better off if father was older. Not just leave, but I feel like if you're leading life right, you should, be one. You should get better with age in every aspect, almost every aspect. And if my life philosophy of, the single best advice that I would give to parents is to be the best version of yourself, you should be a better like role model at 65 versus 55 and 45 and 35. And that was not. And why would this logically be potentially flawed? Basically, we've established that doesn't really matter, right? It's just comes down to like desire of whether we want to have a tea party with our daughter. And I feel overall the desire is probably stronger if you're older versus when you're younger because of competing interests and responsibilities. Also, It's part of it, but I would say for most, it's more of like career ambitions that most 25-year-olds are chasing. And you could say they are doing that so they could easily like chase girls. But so when you had kids, it wasn't planned. What were the initial feelings when you found out that you were having children? Was it, on like 10 being like static and one being like, oh shit, we need to abort this baby? What would it be? Overall, like excitement for it though, 1 through 10. Because you weren't, it wasn't planned, and you had the whole like, oh, the provider had stress on your overall like all of these factors combined on a scale of like 1 through 10, what would you give it? Yeah, yeah, yeah. Okay. If you didn't have the provider, if you didn't have to worry about the provider, what would it be? No. So if I ask you the question again, so when you had the child, you said your excitement level was at 5, mainly because you had the whole provider had responsibility that you had to deal with. Yeah. Not in birth, but when you found out that you're having a child. Yeah. So if there was no provider worries, what would that have been? I have to explain that. It's still unplanned, but you didn't have to worry about the provider hat. Okay. So 2 point difference. What's missing that it's not a 10? Okay. So to go over again, the main disadvantage is mainly health, and specifically within health, physical capabilities, which then translates to less time with your child and your grandchild. Tell me more about the emotional well-being of your kids if you pass away. But in theory, if you are older, then you should, have healthier, potentially raise healthier children that have better character, better mental well-being. Wouldn't they be better prepared for your death when it actually happens? If he doesn't have strong morals at 65, he's not going to have him at 25. Yeah. I think you're no, I'm going to disagree with you there. Why wouldn't you be a better dad at six? Let's say you both have two shitty, you have a shitty person. You're probably, if you're a shitty person, you're probably worse at 25 than you're at 65. No? I don't think people get worse as they age. And so that's something to think about. So I don't know, like I've been watching Succession, and so that just comes to mind. But like Rupert Murdoch, do you think at this age he is a worse person than he was at like 25 or 35? Rupert Murdoch? Yeah. So you think his desire for power has increased as he's gotten more power? Or do you think that power already existed, it was just dormant at 25? Do you think everyone has an innate desire for power? Agreed. So underneath that desire for power, I agree with you. There is what it is. It's a desire for control. I see that desire for control being a very common, I won't say mistake, but a common thing that parents try to do to their children that's kind of negative. Okay. So excluding everything more now, do you think as you get older that desire for control reduces? Do you think it increases or stays the same? You don't think as you get older you experience more things and so hence you tend to let things go a little bit more? Like less things are as important? Yeah, and so as you experience more things in life, more things should become lesser of a big deal, no? I guess on a macro level though, do you think problems get worse for people as they get older? Or they get better, or they stay the same? Basically, they don't try to become the best version of themselves every year. It's a common saying, but I mean, yeah, um, yeah, it's true. A lot of people just stay the same, but I feel overall like if you were to take 100 people, I feel like more than not, actually, just through sheer experience alone, they become better versions of themselves a little bit. The problems actually become less. I'm not saying everyone, like someone could have gone through like multiple traumas, and then they could become like worse. But overall, I'm gonna say more than not, you get better as you get older. Yes. So I don't think introspection and self-awareness is binary. Like either you have it or you don't. I think it's a continuum. Um, how many people do and I think I don't think I think there's very few people that just completely doesn't have it. But let's just say you're on a scale of like 1 through 10 and you're on a one. I feel as you get older, you generally don't stay at a one or you go to zero. You might incrementally go up to like a three, maybe a four. But from a macro perspective, you're still considered like unaware. And I don't think that's the main barrier towards people, I guess, towards self-improvement. I actually think it's because people are hardwired to look for simple solutions and basically be lazy. With denying it, you're just not aware of it. So, okay, I'll agree with that. You could say underneath that is you're denying it because you are not truly comfortable with yourself, i.e., like you lack self-confidence. Yes. 'Cause I heard the saying, and supposedly it came from like a shirt that from a climbing gym that said like no trade-offs or no solutions, just trade-offs. And the idea behind it is like, there's no perfect solution. Everything has its downsides. Uh, I feel overall like being an older dad is the trade-offs, positive trade-offs far outweigh the negative trade-offs. If nothing alone, that provider has should be less of a stress when you're older. And that has other, I feel like, trickle down effects on other things. 35 to 37. If it starts with the four, you're definitely, I'm gonna say, on the refined point. Our man George Clooney, like he stretched it at like 56. But yeah, I'm gonna say definitely 40, and maybe even as much as 35. In their 40s, I don't see a lot that had their first child in their 40s. Maybe their second child, but not their. Yeah, um, that's true. It's pretty bad. And so Elizabeth is still like a Korean citizen. She just has her green card here. Supposedly, I don't know if I heard they're like paying people to actually have kids. So she actually wants to like have like a kid in yeah, Korea. I don't think she's wrong on this, but I heard 100,000, and that seems. I think it's more like 10,000. It is probably more like 10. Um, but yeah, what did you yeah. Okay, man. Yeah, I'm pretty sure I'm gonna start that. Mhm. It's $100. Yeah, you just drop the last three digits to get the US conversion a little bit. It, it's bad. I mean, it's the one is weak against the dollar now, so it's actually like $75. I think your question was, what was your question again? No, I can pull it up. My personal reason was I had other competing interests that took more of a priority. There were other things I wanted to experience in life and accomplishments and goals that I wanted to achieve before I focused all my attention towards like having kids. Um, I don't believe, not ideal, but I'm a little bit more towards it. Um, and if you know me, I'm never like 100% for anything. It's always kind of like middle of the road. Yeah, I'm never like I'm so excited, or I'm like, man, I'm so depressed. So like having kids, like 1 through 10, 7, you know. But it's like always been a 7 kind of. Yeah, so that's my reason. Obviously Elizabeth has a different perspective and different reasons. Um, in terms of why we're waiting right now, what is a dink? I've heard of that. DINK? Okay. Um, and what was it? Like for me. Mm, okay. Yeah. And dink is the racist term for Koreans? Okay. Yeah, I've heard of that acronym somewhere. I just didn't, yeah, know when it. At first, I thought you like mistyped something, but yeah, think you asked, in this day of dates, probably decide to have kids. Um, yeah, it's the same thing. Just like I've experienced most things in life. It's just kind of another checklist. Um, I always used to say like parents are like the worst marketers overall for kids, but I think I've been maybe speaking to the wrong parents. Not the wrong parents, but I know you disagree. We can discuss this like at a different like time, but I actually think how well off you are makes a huge difference in terms of your enjoyment of kids. Not in terms of like whether you raise good kids or not, like their character, but in terms of the ease for the mother and the father. I think the more money you have, the easier and more enjoyable it is. And the reason I know this is like most people that I've spoken to that I think like are the marketers for kids is because like their time is so stretched. They're doing everything. They have like so many responsibilities. Um, yeah, I told you I'm in like this entrepreneurs group, generally like higher income, so they're able to afford like help and just have more time. They overall seem to be more positive and enjoy like having kids more, from what I've noticed. And what I asked about it's generally because they have more help, they have more time, they have yeah, they have less stresses in their life. Like for instance, what are the stresses that Sal has about what are the things she doesn't enjoy about being a parent? Yeah, those are all now imagine she didn't have to worry about that at all. And she could just focus solely on the kids. I think there's definitely balance. If you're like overly greedy and you're, just trying to make more and more every day, so you don't actually, your time is spent on trying to make more and more money, then that's a negative. But I think if you've gotten to a point where you can maybe step away from your career or your work a little bit more, and you could make at least, I'm gonna say the sweet spot is about like 500,000 a year. You can afford to have someone like cook and clean. Take that responsibility off. Take care of a lot of the logistics. So Elizabeth's love language is also like cooking for me and stuff, you know. But I'm pretty sure she would love to have a personal chef or someone cook because that doesn't mean that they have to cook all the meals. What that means is that, and I'm assuming for SL too, there are probably times where she doesn't want to cook. So what having a personal chef is, it's like having the ability to cook only when she wants to cook. I don't know, man. I feel like in this day and age, to make 500,000 is not as, I'm gonna say it's straightforward, but it's hard. I don't think it's magic. I don't think it requires luck. I think it does, there is a simple formula to get there, but executing on that formula is tough and requires a lot of sacrifice. Would you be willing to give up maybe 5 years of spending less time with your kids towards having that? What if it, you can't get that time back, but the way I see it is you're buying yourself more quality time for the remaining like 40, 50 years. Yeah. You could die in 6 years, but realistically, you're going to be alive for another 50. And the way I see it is like, I'd much rather give up, like, instead of having like 5 hours of quality time every day for the next 5 years, it's like, sorry, it's just going to be one. But then after five, it'll be like, after the 5 years, it'll be like, infinite amounts of quality time. So, assuming you don't prematurely die, though, if you look at the end, the person that sacrifices the first 5 years is actually providing less quality time overall on the cumulative, no? I can agree with that. You're basically saying that during the early ages, then during the next 5 years is more important than maybe the remaining like next 40 years. Okay. Yeah. Or it could just be a refined dad and have that all set up when you have your first kid. But all right, good talk. All right, okay, later. Bye.